Authorities are set to file cases over the killing of radio broadcaster Percy Lapid.
Sa palagay ko, nalalapit na tayo ron, sapagkat yung sa aming mga pag-uusap kanina, mukhang meron ng tinutumbok. Magkakaroon yata ng announcement in the next 1, 2, or 3 days. Hindi ko pa mabanggit sa inyo dahil may ginagawa nga pong investigasyon ang NBI at saka ang PNP.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Jess De Los Santos.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The big story tonight.
Authorities have identified the alleged masterminds in the killing of radio commentator Percy Lapid. That's according to the victim's brother, Roy Mabasa.
The names of those behind the killing were revealed to the Mabasa family during a case conference with the Justice Department and the NBI. Marlene Alcaide with the big story.
Roy Mabasa, the brother of slain radio broadcaster Percy Lapid, arrived with his lawyer and spokesperson at the Department of Justice on Wednesday morning. This is for a case conference with Justice Secretary Boying Remulla and investigators from the National Bureau of Investigation. Authorities explained the timeline and showed the affidavits that they have gathered. Mabasa says authorities have already identified the alleged masterminds in the killing of his brother and the alleged middleman in the murder June Villamor. However, he refused to give more details.
Mukhang meron ng tinutumbok, subalit I'm not at liberty to say to you kung ano yung mga pangalan o kakikilanlan. Magkakaroon yata ng announcement in the next 1, 2, or 3 days habang nag-uusap tayo ngayon.
Murder complaints are expected to be filed either on Friday or on Monday. Mabasa leaves it to the DOJ to reveal the details on the case. But the family spokesperson, attorney Bertenico Singh, tells that he received information that it's inmates themselves who raised $500,000 pesos to carry out the murder plot.
Binigay po sa akin ito na yung pera ay binuo mula sa mga preso or PDL kung tawagin. At nang mabuo yung pera ay binayad ito sa bank account, hinulog sa bank account ni Mr. Joel Escorial na siyang umamin na siyang pumatay.
Singh adds that a Bureau of Corrections official supposedly deposited the money.
Ayon sa aking source, hindi pa naman kumpirmado ito ay hinulog daw ng staff o staffer ng isang opisyal dyan sa Bacoor.
Justice Secretary Remulla earlier said that the Anti-Money Laundering Council is now involved in the investigation. Meanwhile, the Mabasa family has accepted additional security assistance amid death threats they've been receiving. However, they are not keen on being placed under the Witness Protection Program. Mabasa also revealed that the Justice Secretary intends to visit his brother's family to check on their security. For News 5, Marlene Alcaide, we are One News.
Meanwhile, the mandatory implementation of full face-to-face classes began today, but some schools still had to resort to blended learning amid a lack of classrooms. Marian Enriquez with the big story.
Public schools in the country are now required to implement 5-day face-to-face classes starting November 2. But Batasan Hills National High School says they will continue with blended learning. The school says they have to have 2 class shifts to accommodate the huge number of students. The school decided that 3 days will be for in-person classes, while the other 2 days are for blended learning. This is because the school only has over 100 classrooms to accommodate 18,600 students. If the school pushes through with full face-to-face classes, they will have to force around 60 to 90 students inside each classrooms. For now, they have divided the standard classroom into 2 to accommodate 25 students in each classroom.
Ano na bang learning ang makikita natin doon sa 31.5 na siksikan? Ito nga 25, mas gusto ng bata doon kasi lahat ng attention ay bibigay doon sa mga bata, lalo ng mga slow learner na tututukan. Ngayon, pag sisiksikan mo rito, ayun na nga, nasa pandemya tayo, di ba? Pangalawa, siksikan, talaga namang hindi conducive to learning yun. At doon sa mga bata at mga teachers.
The school says they need 82 more classrooms to be able to implement the 5-day face-to-face classes. Aside from Batasan National High School, 50 schools were also permitted to continue blended learning in Metro Manila. Also exempted from the full face-to-face classes are are schools affected by Paeng and previous typhoons.
We want to bring the learners back in school, but we have to bring them back safely also. So that's why under the amendatory DO, we also provided room for exemptions depending on the situation. Be it natamaan ng calamity, alangan naman ibalik natin yung mga learners pag ganyan, di ba? Kung highly congested, alangan naman isiksik natin yung mga learners sa isang classroom.
DepEd is also studying the possibility of institutionalizing blended learning in public schools as a solution to the classroom shortage in the country. Meanwhile, the DepEd NCR still encourages the wearing of face masks inside classrooms, despite it being made voluntary.
If you happen to see it, parang bumalik kami doon sa pre-pandemic classroom setup na marami talaga sa loob. So ang advice natin, since this is voluntary, so mapapansin din naman natin na kahit yung mga bata parang sanay na din na merong mask. So ang bili natin ay mag-mask pa rin. Hindi naman siguro paglabag yun.
The Department of Health, for its part, says that they will defer with the DepEd regarding this policy decision. However, they remind the public that mask wearing will help prevent the transmission of COVID-19. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
After the break, we'll be speaking with ACT or ACT teachers, party list representative Franz Castro, regarding the full implementation of face-to-face classes. That and more when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
The creator economy is booming. Billions of videos, massive brand deals, multi-millionaire influencers. It's a $100 billion economy that didn't exist 20 years ago. So how did the creator profession grow so
to community college and living in my parents' house. We were getting some crazy views on videos, but at that time it was just like, okay, this is cool and there's something here, but there's no money here yet.
But years later, after some trial and error, YouTube's online economy picked up pace. The company set its business model apart from traditional TV by leaning on the commercial appeal of its stars. Millions of channels started making money. Last year, YouTube made more than $28 billion in advertising and had 2 million creators in its ads program. But unlike in 2007, YouTube has some serious competitors. TikTok has emerged as a defining app of a generation. The short-form video platform loved by Gen Z was the most downloaded app of 2021 and has surged to 1 billion plus global users.
I know for sure there's more money going into TikTok than there was 2 years ago. A lot of advertisers want to go wherever the teens are. It is like the hot thing, and advertisers want to be associated with the hot thing. TikTok just exploded so much. With YouTube, there was a creator community. Like, there weren't a very large amount of creators that had over 1 million.
You're watching the big story here on One News. Apart from classroom shortage, flooded schools are also a problem in some areas that were hit by Tropical Storm Paeng. Here's the report.
Mud, trash, and all kinds of debris. This is what welcomed school officials and teachers at the Aniban Central Elementary School in Bacoor, Cavite. 5 feet high floodwaters ravaged the area in the wake of severe tropical storm Paeng. So instead of preparing their lesson plans, teachers had no choice but to start their day on a cleanup duty.
Halos wala na ang aming kabibigay lang na module ba ma'am? Ubos ay lahat 'yun basa. Hindi na rin kayo makaka-print within this week kasi wala kaming magagamit.
Since there is a lot to clean up, the local government has decided to postpone the resumption of in-person classes in all levels in public and private schools to November 5. But apart from the extended period for cleaning, teachers are also asking for help.
Sana bago kami pumasok, meron na kaming magagamit na mga guro ko, malinis lang school namin.
The Aniban Central Elementary School is just one of the many schools and establishments ravaged by the flood after the Zapote River overflowed. Based on the initial data from the LGU, 69 out of 73 barangays in Bacoor were submerged in flood. The LGU is now appealing for help from the national government in dredging and cleaning up the Zapote River, since they do not have the budget to undertake these activities on their own.
Kailangan talaga tingin ko mas malaking pag-aaral pa ang gawin ng national government. Sabi ko, ma-desilt lang yung mga ilog kasi bumabaw, makikita nyo burak.
Bacoor also could have benefited from their existing calamity funds.
Declare na ang probinsya at nag-declare na rin ang city na under the state of calamity tayo. Kaya lang, alam nyo na, patapos na ang taon, maliit lang pondo natin.
Around 400,000 residents in Bacoor were affected by the flood. City officials worry that the current stock of relief and financial aid may not be enough to cover all affected residents. For News 5, Marty Bautista, We Are One News.
At least 122 people have died due to the onslaught of tropical cyclone Paeng. The NDRRMC reports that 92 of those deaths have already been confirmed as of 6 p.m. 103 people were injured while 36 are still missing. Nearly 967,000 families have been affected by Paeng, and that's equivalent to over 3.3 million individuals from about 7,600 barangays.
Damage to infrastructure has risen to more than 1 billion pesos, while damage to agriculture is now at 1.6 billion pesos. President Marcos has declared a state of calamity in 4 regions. These are Bicol, Calabarzon, Western Visayas, and Barm. This means the LGUs in these areas will be allowed to use their calamity funds for rescue, recovery, relief, and rehabilitation efforts. And as of 4:30 p.m. today, a total of 528 schools are still being used as evacuation centers for those affected by Tropical Cyclone Paeng.
Now here to discuss with us the resumption of full face-to-face classes, we have ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro over Zoom. Good evening, ma'am. Welcome to the big story. Again, after 2 years of blended learning, here we are. We have the Education Department adamant about the resumption of full face-to-face classes. How would you rate our return so far?
Yes, thank you, Chester. Good evening. So we can say that up to now, the Department of Education has not fully ready with the implementation of the face-to-face classes because during the pandemic time, there were already 90,000 classrooms that has to be built. And during the typhoon and earthquake, it has nag-add, diba? It's added to around 600 rooms to be rehabilitated and to be built. So yan yung problema natin, Chester and Gretchen, in our schools now. With the face-to-face classes, teachers are still facing the same problem pre-pandemic time, the same problem of lack of infrastructure. And also with this, students were cramped up in their classrooms. So that's why the Department of Education should be lenient in their directives of full implementation of face-to-face classes.
Ma'am, do you think it's a premature decision to push full in-person classes given that, our weather system, the string of typhoons, and what it has cost our educational facilities, and also, I guess, comparing our state when it comes to the COVID response, comparing to other countries?
It's not naman but our recommendation is that dapat nagkaroon na ng face-to-face classes before pa, kasi tayo na nga yung last. So the Department of Education should ready this classrooms during the pandemic time. So sinamantala sana yung pagbibuild ng classrooms, at ito with the earthquake and the typhoon, they should have double time in building and rehabilitating these classrooms. So hindi naman premature yung face-to-face classes. In fact, ang sabi nga natin last year pa dapat magkaroon na ng face-to-face classes.
Pero given po yung condition ng ating classrooms that we see crowded scenarios inside, and as you've mentioned, it's a problem we've had way before. The classroom to student ratio is just too much. Do you think it was premature to allow voluntary face mask use in these settings?
Yes, as regards the wearing or voluntary wearing of the face mask, as of now, Gretchen, we know that the COVID cases is continuously increasing, and in our classrooms where students were crowded and cramped up with the small classrooms, so dapat talaga mag-wear pa rin ng mask yung mga estudyante natin, kasi they do not anymore practice social distancing as recommended by the Department of Health. Kung ilang meters away or 1.5 meters away. So dapat ang DepEd should be flexible, lenient in the implementation of full face-to-face classes, taking into consideration pa rin yung health ng ating mga teachers and health ng ating mga estudyante.
Okay, ma'am, you mentioned earlier it seems like a missed opportunity itong past 2 years to actually fix the basic education system. What do you think should have been done, at least in those past 2 years?
Yes, Jester, during the past pandemic times or 2 years of pandemic, so ito dapat yung panahon that they should completed the building of 90,000 classrooms. Kasi yun yung kulang natin before the pandemic. At ngayon, because of the disasters, nadagdagan pa. So yun nga yung sinasabi natin, missed opportunity dapat ng DepEd. Pero hindi naman natin nasisisi itong present administration. Yung last administration ng DepEd, dapat ginawa na nila yon. Para kasi anticipating yung kasi alam naman natin, Chester, every year nadadagdagan ng 2 million. Based on study and statistics, nadadagdagan ng 2 million yung ating mga estudyante. So dapat naging very alert at saka vigilant at saka naging yung future sighted dapat ang DepEd.
All right, again, thank you very much for your time tonight, ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro. Now let's pause for a quick break. Right after that, commuters were welcomed with problems in the Philippine National Railway and the MRT-3 on the first day of back to work after the long weekend. We'll look into that when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Did Elon Musk just dodge a huge legal bullet here in closing this deal for Twitter?
Yeah, we'll never know, will we? But it sure was scheduled to go to trial soon is the one involving a compensation package Elon got from Tesla back in 2018, a whole slug of stock options in I think 12 tranches. And they were performance-based. In other words, he didn't get the benefit of those options unless Tesla met some milestone performances, which they mostly did.
You're still watching The Big Story here on One News. Circling back to our top story tonight, authorities have identified the alleged masterminds in the killing of radio commentator Percy Lapid. And here to discuss the latest developments in the Percy Lapid murder case, we have with us live via Zoom Attorney Berteni Kausing, legal counsel of the Mabasa family. Good evening, Attorney.
Yes, good evening, Jester and Berteni.
Hey, Attorney, can you tell us more about the supposed official who allegedly deposited money used to fund Percy's killing? Do we have more information on that and the gangs involved?
Well, with regard to the depositing money, it was, actually I'm not at liberty yet to talk to mention their name because we promised Secretary Boying Monya that he should one who should break the Friday when they filed the case to add most respondents in the present that have charged. At the present, the respondents are Joel Escorial E. Salve, number 2, Israel de Maculangan E. Ataw, number 3, Edmond de Maculangan E. Ataw, and number 4, the person he just named was Orly or Orlando. So there will be surely additional response. And of course, without naming names, you could just guess that it's officials of the Bureau of, and then also the PDLs or the persons deprived of liberty who are involved in the facilitation. As I said yesterday or last night, these persons, the PDLs, the group of PDLs, were the ones who pulled their money in order to pay for the contract to kill Percy Lapid. So that's it. So the person who deposited is actually, I'm not just clear about his or her position. I am yet to know whether he is he or she. That person deposited the money in the bank to be paid to Joel Escorial's video savings account.
Okay, to be clear, Attorney, that person is under Bucor.
To be clear, that person is within the Bucor. Although what is not clear is whether that person is actually working for one of the stalls or businesses inside the Bucor, or whether that person is an employee of Bucor.
And then at the same time, can you at least give us more details on the gangs involved here in the killing of Percy Lapid? Like you mentioned, a number of inmates pulled in the money to actually support or at least fund the killing of Percy Lapid here. How deeply involved are the gangs here?
Okay, I'll just tell you the whole plot.
Okay.
The whole plot in the briefest possible as I can. There is this mastermind. I'll not name who he is or she is. And then below the mastermind is a number 2 man or number 2 person rather. And this number 2 person was the one who called in one of the lords of the, shall I call them lords of the race, the gangs. So one lord of the race there, and then instructed that there is project to kill Percy Lapid. So then thereafter...
Go ahead, Attorney.
Attorney?
There
you go.
Other lords. Yes, do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead, continue.
So, when that particular lord was contacted to by the number 2 man, or the man just the bottom of the mastermind, he called in 2 other lords and then told 2 other lords, we have a project. and we must finance it. So the number 2 man called in these 3 lords, and when they met in the office of the second man, they said that I have already told this person what to do. You talk to him. So they briefly went out. Thereafter, there was that understanding that they were instructed to produce their own money, to look for the killer, and to be.
Okay, but attorney,
the man to be
what's
the killer.
attorney?
Now,
If we may just cut you there, what's going to be crucial here is whether or not these statements are actually supported by an affidavit. Is that something that you are confident at this point that is all going to be part of the affidavit that's going to be presented?
Yes, I am assuring you 100%. They are all supported by affidavits and confessions, extrajudicial confessions. Not only the extrajudicial confession of Mr. Joel Escarial, but also another set of extrajudicial confessions taken from those new persons who were taken into custody with the National Bureau of Investigation. So, as to the question whether it could be supported, I could say solidly it will stand in court to prove that case beyond reasonable doubt.
Do you have a timeline for that, very quickly?
So I just proceed from where I left off. So after a few days, the mastermind got to peace because there was no movement. But later, one in the group of Sputnik found a killer.
Okay.
And that it was the middleman who was killed.
Okay.
Who called Mr. Christopher Bacoor to look for a gunner. And then Christopher Bacoor found gunner and it turned out to be Joel Escorial.
Okay.
And then
attorney, unfortunately, we seem to be having problems with your audio as well. Your audio is coming in and out at this stage. We do hope that we can actually continue this interview, this discussion with you. We'll try to get more details on that one. And of course, we are going to await the release of that affidavit as well.
And cases will be filed on Friday.
Thank you very much for your time tonight. Again, Attorney Berteni Kausing, legal counsel of the Mabasa family. And that's a big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World Online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more in-depth analysis. I'm Jess De Los Santos.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Gretchen Ho. Stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.